The Unabomber was a part of the Harvard LSD studies, and when they did him, after he got dosed up, he became a fucking nut. And that's what happened with him. Ted Kaczynski was in the Harvard LSD studies, and that's one of the things they tried. There's a documentary on it called The Net, and it's about that very situation. And Ted Kaczynski being a part of the Harvard LSD studies, and they don't know what the fuck they did to those kids. They dosed the shit out of those kids, and he went from there to become a professor, saved up all of his money from school just to be able to buy this cabin in the woods, live there, and plot the demise of technology. Yeah, he became a fucking complete nutter.
Point.
I've heard that also about the French case where the CIA dosed all these people's bread. There was supposedly an experiment that a French town that the CIA dosed an entire town.
Wait a minute.
Remember this?
I suspect that story might be a mixture. Saint Vitus's fire, I think it's called. There's a story about the witch hunts, and some anthropologists went back and looked at towns that had the most sort of crazy witch hunts in the medieval period, and he found that the year previous to that, there had been an unusually high level of rain. And so ergot, which is a fungus that grows on rye and wheat and some other grains, had grown a lot more. And ergot also contains LSD. Right.
I think it's actually a late frost, but I think you're right. I think it was
a late frost.
I think it's a late frost that's the issue. But this was
it was in the bread.
Yeah, this was not that case though. This was something different. That's one of the things that they used with the Salem witch trials. The Salem witch trials they blamed on ergot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they think that when all these people were freaking out about being hexed, and that's probably what was going on. They were probably having really intense psychedelic experiences. A 50-year-old mystery of the cursed bread of Point Saint Esprit, which left residents suffering hallucinations, has been solved after a writer discovered the U.S. had spiked the bread with LSD as part of an experiment.
Ooh.
1951, a quiet, picturesque village in southern France was suddenly mysteriously struck down with mass insanity and hallucinations. At least 5 people died, dozens were interned in asylums, and hundreds afflicted. For decades, it was assumed that the local bread had been unwittingly poisoned with a psychedelic mold, but now, however, an American investigative journalist has uncovered evidence suggesting that the CIA peppered local food with the hallucinogenic drug LSD as a part of a mind control experiment at the height of the Cold War. Yeah, but I don't know what the reference is this is, because this is on the Telegraph. Is the Telegraph like the Daily Mail, or is it more legit?
I think it's in between.
Close.
It's not the Guardian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they have all these scientists.
Well, they definitely were fucking around with LSD. The whole COINTELPRO thing.
Oh, they did that with. There's plenty of videos where they did that with soldiers, and that's also with the Harvard LSD studies. It's what created the Unabomber. The Unabomber was a part of the Harvard LSD studies, and when they did him, after he got dosed up, he became a fucking nut. And that's what happened with him. Ted Kaczynski was in the Harvard LSD studies, and that's one of the things they tried. There's a documentary on it called The Net, and it's about that very situation. And Ted Kaczynski being a part of the Harvard LSD studies, and they don't know what the fuck they did to those kids. They dosed the shit out of those kids, and he went from there to become a professor, saved up all of his money from school just to be able to buy this cabin in the woods, live there, and plot the demise of technology. Yeah, he became a fucking complete nutter. I mean, whether or not he was a nutter before that, who knows? But the fact remains is that guy was a part of the Harvard LSD studies, and they're very secretive about what actually went on in those studies.
Which studies are we talking about? At the Divinity School?
I'll tell you right now. Ted Kaczynski.
Because they did studies with Divinity School students at Harvard, and then Leary and Alpert, now Ram Dass, gave psilocybin, I think it was, to some of their students, but relatively light doses as far as I know.
Yeah, but that's the problem when you say that, as far as I know. I don't know what they did either, but if I was fucking up a bunch of people's brains and afterwards people came to interview me, I'd say relatively small doses.
Have you seen?
We didn't create any Unabombers or anything.
Have you guys seen that image of ergot under a microscope? Have you seen it?
I'm sure I have.
Have you seen that, Joe? It looks like mushrooms.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, this is here it is. This is the 1959. Ted Kaczynski was. He was absolutely a part of it. 80 sophomores administer a series of scales of questionnaires dealing with various dimensions of personality. Pick 25 subjects, some extremely high, some extremely low, and some in the middle of each of these scales. Study 25 subjects over a year period by the multi-form method of assessment. Come up with 700 rank orders using a computer. Obtain clusters of intercorrelating correlations, factors. The final decisions are reached after prolonged discussions and reassessments. Enormous amounts of data, which staff analyzes, interprets, and formulates while they're on LSD.
Does it say anything about LSD?
Yes. This is part one of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh, they also no evidence LSD was ever used. Hold on a second. This is all very complicated shit, apparently, and it's hard to discern what exactly was going on during these studies.
By the way, I just want to put in
and professors.
I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
While you're looking at it, I want to put in a good word for the Unabomber.
Good dude.
I'm not convinced.
Great chef.
That he's a nut.
What?
I think that he took his line of reasoning too far. Obviously, he's killing people, but we could say the same thing about all sorts of politicians and leaders around the world who kill people over an idea that they take too far. But I think his fundamental argument against civilization has some merit. I'll just say that. And then the other thing I wanted to say is there's a difference between pedophiles and pederasts. And it's something I didn't really understand until I started talking about pedophiles, and somebody wrote to me and pointed out that a pedophile is someone who has sexual attraction for people that we consider too young to be appropriate, whether that's at 18 or 16 or 12 or whatever, generally prepubescent though. And a pederast is someone who acts on it.
Oh. Huh.
And there's that's an important distinction, because I remember reading this thing in Dan Savage's column where somebody wrote into him and said, look, I'm attracted to kids sexually. I would never touch a kid. But it's in me. I can't help it. It's in me. I want to, and I want to get therapy. I want someone to help me strengthen my resolve never to do this. But by law, American therapists have to report you if you express a sexual desire toward children. So this guy is fundamentally prohibited from seeking any help. There are no group therapy sessions. There's no, if you've got that in you, and we know that, kinks of all sorts get placed in a personality and you can't get it out, but you can learn to deal with it, choose how to enact it or not enact it. But pedophiles have no opportunity for that. In Canada, they do, but in the United States, they can't.
Yeah, they sealed the records from Harvard, class of 1962. They sealed all the records on Kaczynski, and they won't release them. But he was absolutely a part of something called the Murray Study, and the Murray Study was the Murray Center seals Kaczynski data. This is fucking fascinating shit, man. They might have cooked that dude's brain. And created a monster. But you're right, though. He sees the future of the industrial society. That is what he was describing. You're right that he sees, like, oh my God, this can only go one way. But in his crazed state, where he wasn't able to dance and play music like Alan Watts suggested, he was only able to focus on the finish line of the machines taking over the world.
Yeah, and he turned into the monster.
He's a way bigger monster than the society that he was trying to destroy.
And what a disservice he did for his message, because now there's a fucking mail bomb underlining everything he did. So even if there was a bunch of good stuff, he shit all over his own work because he didn't have the foresight to understand that you're using the tools of the people that you're so angry at to try to change the people you're so angry at.
Like every terrorist, right?
Yeah.
Well, everybody who thinks that they're right. The Net is the documentary, the Unabomber, LSD, and the Internet. Really fascinating stuff. I recommend it. Very interesting. And, the reality of the United States experimenting, whether or not they really did this with this French town, I should probably throw that into Snopes, right? Maybe the Snopes will be able to tell me that's not true. Let's Snope it.
Snopes is great. It's a heartbreaker, though, sometimes.
Yeah, but those heartbreaks are important. Okay, French bread, Snopes. They must have it. It's just the message board. The message board is really tricky.
They have it. Now that you mention it, though, I have read about that. And not that makes it true, but I have heard about that in the past.
Well, they do. I mean, we know that the CIA was dosing people.
Oh,
so,
sure.
Yeah,
left and right.
There's no question that they did do it. And that's one of the problems with being a black and white sort of a person.
Yeah.
Like being a yes, the government's good, or no, the government's bad. It's really hard to be either or, because there's a lot of crazy shit going on. And I find that a lot of these people that are never willing to entertain any conspiracy theories at all, one of the reasons why they do it is because they don't want to be thought of as a fool. They want to be a no-nonsense person. And a no-nonsense person almost always sides with the official story.
Right.
They think that
which is nonsense.
Yeah, which is nonsense.
Yeah.
Many times. My favorite one is just the idea of the conspiracy of 9/11. I've had this with many people that are no-nonsense type, and you say, do you believe that 9/11 happened? And if they say yes, you go, well, then you believe in conspiracies.
Right.
Because no matter who did that, that was a fucking conspiracy.
Right.
I forget who. I would like to give someone credit for that quote. I don't remember who it was, though. I think it was one of us, I think. I don't know who it was. Might have been me. I don't know. It might have been somebody else. But I remember that thinking that for the first time is like such a great and elegant way to describe the potential for conspiracy.
Yeah.
And that people don't want to look at the potential for conspiracy. They want to pretend that everything is exactly as CNN tells you. And other than that, It's just a bunch of shit that's a little wishy-washy to protect terrorism or you from
Right.
terrorism.